As we are moving towards the National Orientation Agency, where you are the boss in Benin, in Edo State, if maybe a child were to ask you now, what happened between that heavenly paradise, as it were, to the kind of hellish situation that we have today in Nigeria, what would you say?
Well, first of all, let me talk a little bit about the National Orientation Agency. The National Orientation Agency is the foremost advocacy organ of government, charged with the responsibility of educating and sensitizing citizens on government policies, programs, and activities. And then we call it serve as a feedback channel to between the government and the people. And we do this by collecting and collating opinions of citizens on government programs, policies, and activities. Their takes on these activities, and then we send to government. And that is by way of inclusivity, making sure that the people have a say in how they are governed. Then, having said that, we not only serve the federal government, though it's a federal government agency, we serve both the federal, the state, and the local government. So we don't discriminate. The agency is non-partisan. That is for sure. The agency is non-partisan. Then, having said that, I want to say that when you look at the past and the present, and you see the decay, some persons will want to leave the blame squarely at the doorstep of the leaders. But we at the National Orientation Agency, we don't buy that idea. That as you have the leaders, you have the followers. It takes two to tango. Like in my place, if you listen to the late MK Abiola, the presumed winner of the 1993 election that was annulled, he said, you cannot remove lies from the head with one finger. And you can only do that with two, that is with your big finger and your index finger and another one. So what I mean to say is when people just blame the leaders are a product of the society. And who enthrones these leaders is the followers. Only for 21 years now, we have had unbroken democratic governance. And there have been consistent elections. No matter how flawed these elections are, the people were elected, leaders were elected. And so, what is the role of followers in governance? Because the constitution has conferred sovereignty on the people. That sovereignty resides on the people. And so if we let this slide, like they say in law, if you sleep over your rights, you lose them. It is because the people have not known, has refused to know the awesome power the constitution has bestowed and conferred on them. And that is why I believe whatever is happening now is happening the way it is too. Forgetting that you have all other variables that contribute to where we are today. You talk of ethnicism, you talk of primordial interests, religious and ethnic sentiments. All these ones definitely, at the time you aggregate all of them. For example, a public officer is admonished for dipping his hand in the till. Instead of the people from his immediate home constituency allowing the relevant agency do diligent investigations to see the outcome, you see they will arrange hired crowd, placards all over. Oh, this is persecution. It is because it's our son, because our son is there. So all these definitely are not appropriate to deepen democratic ethos. And that is the truth. So to me, to us, that is the bane. That is why when we go out, we try to educate, to conscientize the people for them to know, to educate them on the dictates, the spirit and letter of the constitution as it concerns elections, what election is really, That the election, at least we know there is a rounds of election that every 4 years, the constitution has provided a platform opportunity for the people to examine those who are in power, and then to say, yeah, the time has come. Do an introspection, an analysis. Have they performed well? If yes, you can return them if they so do to present themselves. If not, you have the authority of your vote, which is your permanent voters card, to present yourself on that day at your polling unit, cast your vote at least to ensure that you change the leadership through the ballot.
I agree with you. In fact, I've stated it here a couple of times that the time have come for us to actually begin to understand that we are the one that actually have the power. If the Nigerian people are not corrupt, a politician that is corrupt will be afraid to be corrupt.
Yes.
In fact, it will be impossible to produce a leader that is corrupt because the leadership usually, and in most of the cases, is a reflection of the people.
Of course.
But having said that, that is like the question of the chicken, or the chick and the eggs, of who comes first. I think that is where the work of the National Orientation Agency comes in. Now, help me understand this. Who is supposed to teach the people about this right? Because when we take up the Nigerian Constitution, we see this high grammar, this high verbi thing that were put there. Of course, you don't expect my mother to understand that. You certainly do not expect my father to understand that too. So who is going to break it down for them to understand this contract between the leads and the leaders?
Good. We're talking, actually, the constitution, the 1999 constitution as amended, that is still being amended because the process is ongoing now. I think almost 141 clauses have been transmitted by the National Assembly to the 36 states houses of assembly for them to deliberate and then either agree or disagree, so that they'll go back to the National Assembly. Now it is the response. One, first and foremost, like I said, my agency is a foremost advocacy organ of government. We part of our mandate is to educate. There's what we call political education, voter education, voter information. Then there is the civic duties, civic rights and responsibilities. And the Constitution has been translated into major Nigerian languages. Like in Edo, for example, just as you have the English version, you have the Pidgin version, you have Edo, Yoruba, because where I come from, part of Edo North, for example, even some parts of Edo South, of your Southwest, these boundary towns. So we have a lot of Yoruba speaking areas. So that is why we have Yoruba. And so over time, since 1999, even before 1999, at least all the other constitutions, the national orientation has mass produced these constitutions, distributed free of charge. And as we do that, we just extract some salient points. For example, the area that deals with the fundamental rights of citizens, the area that deals with the obligations of government to citizens and the responsibility of citizens to government. And then, of course, the area that deals with elections, from the presidency to the National Assembly, governorship, state houses of assembly. And of course, when it comes to the local government tier, the Constitution has provided for the establishment of the states states independent electoral commissions that are administered by the states. And so, like I said before, the National Orientation Agency does not just does the job or educate the people or sensitize the people on federal government policies and activities. We do that for the state, we do that. So when it comes to, like, since, like I said, no, let me not kid or stay from this present, the democratic dispensation that came into force in 1999. We have, between then and now, I cannot begin to tell you, the volume of translations we have done, the number we have mass produced in pamphlets now, like I said, extracting from the main those we think are relevant that the people should know, most especially about their rights, because information is key. Because you hear of human rights violations, we believe that when an individual is aware of his rights as conferred on him by the constitution, then nobody will violate him. Nobody, no matter how highly placed, or any uniform organization, for example, will not, because we come to the realization that these things happen because most persons, citizens, are ignorant of the dictates of the constitution.